Hi guys, welcome back to Miss Bulazo's Read Aloud series. Today we are going to have our second episode of Clementine. So in another video, I recorded chapters 1 and 2 of Clementine. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go check that out. Today we're going to be reading chapters 3 and 4. Alright guys, here we go. I don't even want to think about the school part of Tuesday because it makes me too mad. Margaret's mother sent a note to her teacher today that said, "Watch out, my daughter isn't left alone with Clementine. I told my mom as soon as I got home." Margaret's mother is upset right now, my mom said. I guess I would be too. Then she let me stir grape jelly into my milk to make me feel better. I must have been wearing a mad face when my dad walked in because he just took one look at me and then handed me the key to the service elevator. My dad is the manager of our whole apartment building. He says that means all the people who live in our building, even the pigeons, are the boss of him. But he has the keys to everything, so I think that makes him the boss. And he understands that riding the service elevator calms me down when I'm mad. Dad said, 4 times sport, that's all. And they're painting up on 7. If the painters need the elevator, you have to get right off. So I rode up to 7 to see if the painters needed any help. You never know. And guess what I saw? 3 men painting the ceiling on stilts. I'm not even making that up. So there's a picture of stilts right here. It's like leg extenders almost. You stand on these little sticks. It's pretty crazy. Need any help, I asked? Want me to put on some stilts? I guess they were being polite because they said, "No thanks, kiddo, we're all set," even though I could see they had a lot more to do. So I rode the elevator exactly 3 more times, and then I went back home. When I opened the door, I could hear my mom still talking to my dad about the note. "How do you think that made her feel?" she said. "Imagine if our daughter is a common criminal." A criminal is someone who does something bad. Sometimes it's against the rules of our country. My dad snorted and said, "Well, that is insulting. There is nothing common about Clementine." And then my mom said, "That's not funny." And my dad said, "Yes, it is, a little." And my mom said, "Okay, I guess it is, a little. But what are we going to do?" Then I quickly closed the door and went back out before I could hear the answer in case it was, "Let's trade her in for an easy kid." I sat out in the lobby waiting to get enough bravery to go up to the 5th floor and say sorry to Margaret's mother and ask her for a note that said, "I do not think your daughter is a common criminal." Finally, it came. I didn't take the elevator to Margaret's apartment because I couldn't risk running into old Mrs. Jacoby. Every time I saw her, her hands gave me a $5 bill and said, "Run to the store and get me a box of Cheerios, dearie." I don't like to do it because then I have to bring it into her apartment on the top floor and talk to her while she counts the change and then hands me 50 cents. But if she asks me, I have to say yes because A, she's 400 years old and I'm polite. B, I need the money to save up to buy a gorilla. They cost LOTS lots. Anyways, I didn't have enough extra bravery to say no thanks to her too, so I walked up to the back stairway, 5 times 12 stairs, which equals 60. So that means there was 12 stairs and 5 floors. She went to 5A and knocked. Margaret's mother opened it, and she stood there looking like a magazine picture of a mother in a magazine picture of a living room. I said, "Hi," and a bad surprise happened. Although I have never practiced it this way, my voice sounded exactly like a common criminal's. "You can't play with Margaret today, Clementine. She's spending the afternoon in her room, thinking about the consequences of her actions, which is what you should be doing too." Okay, fine. She didn't actually say the last thing, but I could tell she was thinking it. Behind her, Margaret's brother, Mitchell, leaned out from the kitchen doorway so I could see only his head and shoulders. Then, even though he is in junior high and should know better, he grabbed his hair and pretended to yank himself back into the kitchen. And I laughed, even though I knew it was his own hand. I do not think someone should be called the hard one if they make other people laugh. "Clementine, there's nothing funny about this," said Margaret's mother. I didn't tell her what was so funny, and I didn't say any sorries. and I didn't ask for a new note, in case I still had a common criminal's voice. I just ran down the hall. This time I did take the elevator, because I was hoping to run into Mrs. Jacoby. So that's what she looked like. See? There's her brother back there, Margaret's brother. I was hoping I'd run into Miss Jacoby, so I wouldn't have to go right home. But I didn't. So I did, and when I opened the door to the apartment, I saw that our living room looked all wrong. My mother was working at her drawing table. Suddenly I realized I had never seen a drawing table in a magazine picture of a living room. I banged the door shut. Margaret's mother always wears a dress. I didn't know I was going to say this. Margaret's mother works in a bank, my mother answered, still working hard on her drawing. It might be a rule. Still, I said. I'm an artist, Clementine. I want to be comfortable. I get paint all over my clothes, so I have to wear jeans or overalls. You know that, right? Yes, I said. Still. My mother put down her pencil and looked up. Clementine, do you sometimes wish you had the kind of mother who worked in a bank and wore dresses? I nailed my mouth down so it couldn't say, yes, maybe, sometimes, and quick looked out the window so my mother wouldn't see me thinking about it. Then my mother got up and looked out the window too. Our apartment is at the basement level, which is halfway underground. This means the windows are right at the sidewalk height, so we both just stood there pretending to be extremely interested in all the feet passing by. What I was really doing was trying to imagine my mother in a dress. I guess that's what she was doing too, because suddenly we both made corner eyes at each other, and then burst out laughing and couldn't stop. Finally, my mother wiped her eyes and said, "Oh, come on. It wouldn't be that funny, would it?" I said, "Yep, it would." And then I knew exactly the right time to tell her my secret. When I grow up, I might be an artist. And do you know what she said? "Oh, Clementine, you already are. You may end up being something else too. Whatever you want to be. But you'll always be an artist. You just are." So this is their view in their basement. Looking out, laughing, thinking about Clementine's mom wearing a dress. And suddenly our living room looked exquisite with a drawing table in it. But now my fingers itched to be drawing, so I put on my jacket and went to the park to find something interesting to draw. My dad says I'm excellent at noticing interesting things. In fact, he says if noticing interesting things were a sport, I would have a neck full of gold medals. He says that's a very good sign for my future. He says I could be a good detective, of course, but that noticing things is good for any career. My mom says that means I could be a good artist too, or a writer. Last year, a writer came to my school and said, "Pay attention," but she didn't mean to the teacher. She meant pay attention to what's going on around you, so you can write about it. Then she looked exactly at me and said to notice the good stuff and write it down so you don't forget it. So even though I'm not going to be a writer, too much sitting still, I noticed interesting things and wrote them down. I draw them too. In the park, I saw something great right away. A woman eating lentils from a thermos with a toothbrush, even though she had a fork right there, which she was using to eat her salad. So I asked the lady if I could draw a picture of her lentils on her toothbrush, and she said, sure. So I did, and here it is. So if any of you guys don't know, lentils are like little beans. She was eating them on a toothbrush. As soon as I got home, I wrote it all down and asked my mom if we could have lentils for dinner. "You hate lentils, Clementine," my mother replied to me. "Well, I think I've been eating them wrong," I said. So we had lentils, and I ate them the new way. And guess what? It worked. The lentils stuck to the bristle and didn't slide off like with a fork. So I got lots and lots of lentils in my mouth, which was a bad thing because I hate lentils. Chapter 4. I'd better not go to school today, I told my mom. On Wednesday, as soon as I woke her up. I have cracked toes. I put my right foot up on the pillow next to her face so she could see without getting up. This is what is called being thoughtful. Nope, she said, without even opening her eyes to see if it was true. Well, that's not all, I said. I have the heartbreak of sore irises. Nope, she said again. She didn't open her eyes. Irises are like part of your eyeball, so she said her eyeballs are too sore. Actually, I think I have arthritis, I said. Mrs. Jacoby was breathing on me in the elevator the other day. I must have caught it. So arthritis is when you get old and your bones are kind of creaky and they don't move like they used to, but it's only when you get old. Miss Jacoby couldn't cough it onto her like the flu or something like that. Oh, please, she said. But this time she opened one eye, and then she made exactly the sound Polka Dotty used to make when she had a hairball. I grabbed the corner of the quilt and covered my head, but my mom pulled it off again. She took my head in her hands and twisted it around to see all the sides. Too hard, like I wasn't inside it. "You've cut off all your hair? You've cut off all your beautiful hair? What on earth were you thinking, Clementine?" Look what Clementine did. Her red hair. "I wanted to make Margaret feel better," I explained. "I didn't want her to be the only one. But I forgot. Margaret's not going to school today. She had an appointment at the orthodontist to have her bracelets put on her teeth." Mom groaned and closed her eyes again, but she had slid over and made room for me on the warm part of her sheets. I climbed in and took a big sniff. My mom's part of the bed smells like cinnamon rolls. My dad's part smells like pine cones. Right in the middle, it's all mixed up perfectly. That's my favorite place to be. But this morning, Dad was already off to fight the Great Pigeon War, and it was fine just being on the cinnamon roll part. My mom put her arm around me. "Oh, so now you'll be the only one." "I'm sorry, honey. But you can't stay home. You have to go and face the music." So I had to go to school, which almost turned out to be a very bad mistake because I almost had to go to the hospital with the ambulance and the sirens and everything. It happened in the principal's office when my teacher sent me there to have a little chat about sitting still. When I walked in, Principal Rice made the hairball sound too. "Clementine," she gulped, "what have you done? You've chopped off your hair?" I was glad she'd answer her question so I didn't have to. "Wow," I said instead. "Clementine and Rice, we both have food names." Mrs. Rice sealed her lips tight, like she was afraid her teeth were going to run away. She opened up the note from my teacher. "I can't help it," I said, before she could start the little chat. "I'm allergic to sitting still." "Nobody's allergic to sitting still, Clementine." "I am," I said. "My brother's allergic to peanuts. If he eats one, he gets all itchy and swelled up, and he can't breathe right. If I try to sit still, I get all itchy and swelled up, and I can't breathe right. So that means I'm allergic to sitting still." Mrs. Rice squeezed her eyes shut and rubbed her forehead. "I happen to know this idea is so bad it's giving me a headache, because it's the face I make when my mom tells me to visit Miss Jacoby, the face that never works for me. Plus," I explained, "if my brother even eats one tiny peanut, he might have to go to the hospital with the ambulance and the sirens and everything. So if I sit still for 1 minute, uh-oh," I gave my body an extra little jiggle just to stay safe. Phew, that was close. Principal Rice sighed like a leaky balloon. "So that means like..." "Clementine, do you think when you're in a class you could just try to wiggle a little more quietly from now on?" I asked my body about this. Sure, so I told it to Mrs. Rice. "Good. Now, as long as you're here, how about we discuss your hair?" Sorry, guys. Thinking about my hair made me think about Margaret. Thinking about Margaret made me remember about getting bracelets on her teeth. I want bracelets on my teeth more than anything, but I had a bad thought. What if they had pointy edges? Remember, she doesn't like pointy edges. I didn't want to have any pointy things stuck in my mind to worry me all day, so I looked out the window because the only way to erase pointy things is with round things, and clouds are good for that. Right away I saw a cloud that would make a wonderful tattoo. It looked exactly like a dog, if dogs had only 2 legs on the top, not the bottom. I'm not allowed to have tattoos yet, which is unfair, so for now on, I just draw things on my arms so I don't have to forget them. But I didn't have a pen. I looked around the desk to see if Mrs. Rice had a tattoo drawing pen, and suddenly I realized something very suspicious. I had never seen Mrs. Rice's arms. They were always in principal sleeves. Sorry, guys. "Do you have a tattoo?" I asked. "Can I see it?" "What?" Mrs. Rice asked. "Clementine, we were talking about your hair." That was a long time ago, I reminded her. I added a kind smile, because it's not her fault. She has trouble paying attention. All right, that's chapters 3 and 4. Come back for chapters 5 and 6, guys. Thanks for watching.